And so as we're looking on the syllabus, we had a full lab day yesterday to work on 0501. And now we've got 4 days to work on 0502. 0502 is just building out a front end. Like basically, you guys know we're working on the issue tracker. You're working in your final project, that folder, final project folder in your repository. It's the same thing that we've been doing all semester long. We're installing Bootstrap. You can install some dependencies. I don't even know that we're using these dependencies necessarily right now. You can do screen mockups. Okay, so let's talk about what this is. You guys are building on the front end. You're going to build a login form, a register form, a bug list, a bug editor, a user list. These are all components. Okay, so you guys are going to build React components, and in there, you're going to have HTML markup and JSX, essentially, React JSX, without functionality. Okay, you don't have to build in working functionality. I will say the functionality is optional. Now, why is it optional? Because it's kind of like what we did in the beginning of the semester where we just made like local arrays and then we refactored to work with the database. Everyone remembers we started with local arrays kind of working in RAM and working in memory, and then we refactored it to work with the database. Well, all of these login forms, yeah, sure, you can mock up some fake users inside of a local array and see if the user can log in or not and throw a success message or an error message up. But you're going to have to refactor that when you start working with your users in your database anyways. Okay? So personally, I don't really care if you build in any sort of mock functionality because it's not going to be the end functionality that you use. Okay? What this is about getting the front end looking like a front end. Okay? We're going to have a form to log in. So a user, or an email address and a password and a submit button. A register form. What fields do you need to see on a new registration for your users? Obviously, a bug list is going to mock up some dummy bugs. So you might need to throw in some dummy data to see a bug list. Okay, to see a list of bugs. A bug editor. So if you're going to edit your bug, right? So you literally click on the pencil icon on a bug, and instead of seeing the list of bugs, now you can make a change to one bug. A bug editor. User list of users, and a user editor. Okay, we're just getting some front end components built, functionality. It actually explains each one in a little bit more detail. Right here. Forgot that it does say use local state and arrays to implement functionality for now. We will discuss how to interface with our APIs and database next week. Again, I'm not going to be grading based on any sort of functionality right now. I'm going to be grading this on, have you built the mockup? Can I look at a login form on your front end? Doesn't have to be a functioning login form, but can I look at it? Can I look at a register form? Can I look at a bug summary and a bug list item? So these are more specific components than above. Bug list, bug editor, blah, blah, blah. User list with a user summary or user list item, user editor. Okay, so those are the components. Probably, okay. So it does say use Balsamiq if you want to mock up your UI. So there's two camps of thought right here, typically when it comes to the front end. And you guys have all taken the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript class. And so hear me out on this, guys, because I do think this is an important part of when it comes to building a front end. There's two camps of thought that students have. Camp of thought number one is I'm learning to code. I'm going to code everything myself so that I understand the nitty gritty. I understand every line of code. I totally get and understand that point of view. The reality is, yes, it is true. You need to understand the code, and it is beneficial for you to understand and write every line because you will understand it at a deeper level. Okay? The end result of that, and I've seen it for practically decades now, the end result of you being the designer, trying to make your own good-looking website, is that most developers are not good designers. And therefore, most of the websites that developers make don't look nearly as good as if you were to take someone's design, someone who designs a website in a tool like, it used to be Photoshop, but now there's tools like Figma. And the designer who doesn't know a single line of HTML, they will design what a website should look like, and boy, is it a beautiful thing. And so I personally, for that reason, number one reason is the people who use other people's designs make much more beautiful websites. Okay? Reason number two, I don't necessarily like you just hand coding everything from scratch. Reason number two is efficiency. You are in many ways recreating the wheel. Why recreate the wheel? All right, header, hero section, footer, nav bar. It's all been done before. It's all been done before 1,000 times. You need to understand how to code it. That's why we went and did the nitty-gritty coding, right? That's why we took the HTML class. And we learned HTML and CSS at a bare bones level, okay? But when it comes to efficiency, if I'm a company, I need to pump out websites and I need to pump them out. They need to look good and I need to pump out as many as I can in as little amount of time as I can. So many employers over the years, have expressed their opinions to me is, yes, use templates because in the real world, we're just trying to pump these things out. We're trying to get these numbers up to tens of sites a week, hundreds of websites a month. How many websites can you produce? Because that's how you make money. Okay? And so why recreate the wheel? Why code everything from scratch when it's less efficient and a slower process to do that? Okay? So you guys are at the point where you're about to start mocking up your front ends. And you can just kind of start coding from scratch, and you don't have a colored theme. You don't have a color palette that you've picked out good colors. You don't have good fonts. Okay? You don't have any plan. Okay, even if you use a tool like Balsamiq, right, you might not have that designer's eye. You might not have that skill because typically developers write code. They're not as good as designing. Okay, so for those reasons, I'm a fan of using templates. So then where do you get templates from becomes the question. And, well, there's no shortage of template sites, that are essentially you're looking for bootstrap templates. A couple, one that I recently post in the chat, and look, there's plenty of them. If you go to the off topic or coding, let's see, portfolio examples. Okay. So this is just one of many that are out there. So this is nothing necessarily special. But I came across this recently. It's called Landing Folio. The best landing page design, inspiration, templates, and more. And as I was looking at this, I'm able to find templates, landing page templates. And then you could see some of them have a price, but some of them are free. Okay, and so, and some of them, even on the free ones, it's like, well, I think I went to this one. I went to purchase, even though it was free, and I think it was a broken link. So no, here was a downloadable. And what you're doing is you're downloading the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for a sample page like this. This would at least give you some fonts. This would at least give you a color scheme. This would at least give you a good-looking site. out of the gate without having to design anything yourself. Again, to put it more bluntly, you guys are bad at design because you've never studied it. Okay, so I recommend outsourcing the design. You don't have to use landingfolio.com. Again, I complimented Henry. He used what? What did you use the other day? Bootstrapmade.com. I mean, there's no shortage of them. Now, I will add a little bit more to this. Just because you find a good looking template does not mean it was coded well. Does not mean that you're going to understand every line of code. Someone else wrote this code, like, frankly, I mean, that's a good experience to, like, look at some code that someone else wrote and figure out how to work with it. Okay, because that's a whole nother skill. I mean, you guys learn how to write code, right? But we're not necessarily working as much as we should, in teams or in groups or things like this. So it's a whole nother skill to look at someone else's code and figure out how to work with it. Okay, so that's another good reason for this is to integrate. Now, sometimes you're going to find things that's like, oh, well, this uses Tailwind, and either I don't know Tailwind, maybe you wanted to learn Tailwind, maybe this is a good launching point. I didn't learn Tailwind in the curriculum, but I picked up enough to work with it in my final project. Oh, Mr. Employer, let me tell you about it. Yeah, my teacher didn't teach me this, but this had Tailwind in it, and I heard good things, and so I taught myself. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, whether it's, well, this is called the Tailwind. I think this whole thing was called Tailwind Toolbox, but there's many of these, and many of them don't necessarily have to have Tailwind. And I think you could sort by actually here, like maybe Figma, maybe it doesn't use Tailwind. If you want to kind of say, hey, I want different ones. I don't recommend paying. Okay, now if you're building something for someone else, you might want to pay for it. I don't think that's a bad idea, and you might offload that cost. Okay, because the problem with free templates is they tend to be used a lot more. So again, using my experience as a teacher who's seen a lot of portfolio sites, I see a lot of portfolio sites that look the exact same because they're all using the same templates. And so doing your research when it comes to picking a template, when it comes to doing your research to picking a template, I will tell you, a few hours of research, put in some work here. Put in a few hours of digging for the right template. It's coded well. It's in technology that you understand. It looks good. A few hours of research can really pay off dividends in the long run. Okay, it can really make you stand out. Okay, now, to the average eye, does the average person, like my boss who doesn't understand a line of code, does he understand? You might have the most beautiful, elegant, efficient, high-speed, secure backend in the world. Do you think my boss has any clue about that? No. We just spent 50 days of this class learning backends and databases and Express and Node. That doesn't make a lick of difference. What makes a difference to my boss? Ooh, it's got flashy things. It's got good colors. It's got good fonts. That's a good-looking site. This guy knows what he's doing. Or this girl knows what she's doing. Okay? So, again, when it comes to first impressions, I think we all know first impressions are important. And that front end is the first impression. And to people who don't know code, maybe you're trying to impress like an HR person, right? You're trying to get that interview with the developer. That HR person, they want to see a good-looking front end. Okay? And so that's my pitch for using templates. Okay? I think you should use templates. Okay? I have full respect for anyone who decides they don't want to do that. Okay? You and I don't have to agree, and that's fine. Okay? In fact, no big deal. You do what you want to do. At the end of the day, this is your destiny, not mine. Okay? I've given you my sales pitch, why I believe in them, and why if I were in your shoes, I would use them. However, I understand and respect the other side of the coin, which is no, I'm going to understand every line that I wrote. Because frankly, when you download these templates, man, you might have 3,000 lines of CSS. Okay. You know, you better know how to troubleshoot some CSS, because when you want to change something, you got to know how to find what you want to change and all this kind of stuff. But you're not going to understand 3,000 lines of CSS unless you spend, what, a day looking at, okay, what is this doing? What is this doing? What is this doing? Why is it doing this? Well, okay, how they do this? Okay, so there is a little bit of that. You understand why were the decisions made? You know, you understand that less. But yeah, look at this. I mean, this is real easy to get a really good looking website. And this is just your theme, right? You're just using their colors, their fonts, maybe some of their images, and you're swapping out their content with yours. And it's free, and you download it, you click download. You know, maybe these you have to sign up. Maybe you're willing to do that, maybe you're not. If you're not willing to sign up, don't sign up. All right, for this one, it looks like you got to sign up. Maybe you're not willing to do that. And again, you don't have to use Landingfolio. You could use other ones. But what do? You purchase a template. You download the zip folder. You get the CSS. You get the HTML. And you start making React components. Because I showed you how to tie in CSS, did I not? In that last video? We wrote a little CSS.
I think that'll be in part 2. I haven't watched it yet. You did.
Okay. I thought we did. If not, you can see how the CSS is already linked, right? By default, you have a React app template and there's a CSS file. You could see how it all links together. So you just got to start bringing it over. Any questions about Lab 0502? What do we got? We got 4 days to just begin. And this it doesn't have to be, again, even functional at this point. But what are we doing? We're beginning to build our front end. And then we're going to have another lecture where we tie in the front end to the back end. And that's going to be a long lecture. And then we're going to have a whole bunch of days followed by a test and some final projects. Like lots of days to work.